Good afternoon. We've reached the appointed hour of 4 o'clock to begin our meeting of the Washington County Board of Commissioners. We will begin our meeting today with an invocation followed by a Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be offered by Rajan Zed of the Universal Society of Hinduism, and the pledge will be offered after that by Don Oborn of American Legion Post 90, of which he is the chaplain, retired United States Army. Mr. Zed.
Starting with Gayatri Mantra, which is considered the most sacred mantra of Hinduism, I shall be reading from ancient Hindu scriptures, Rig Veda, Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, some as old as 1500 before the Common Era. I shall be reading in Sanskrit and then interpret in English. May all rise, please. Om Bhurvubah Swah Tatsavitursvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yo Na Prachodayat. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who is inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May He stimulate and illuminate our minds. Astoma Sadgamya Tamsoma Jyotirgamya Mrityur Mamratam Gamya. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Tasmada Sakta Statam Karyam Karma Samachara. Asakto Hya Charan Karma Paramapnauti Purusha. Karma Nevahi Samsiddhi Mastita Jankadya. Loka Sangreha Mevapi Sampa Shankar Tumrahasi. Strive constantly to serve the welfare of the world. By devotion to selfless, one attains the supreme goal of life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. Om Saha Navavtu, Saha No Bunaktu, Saha Viryan Karba Bahai, Jasvi Nava Ditamastu, Ma Vidvisa Bahai. May we be protected together, may we be nourished together, may we work together with great vigor, may our study be enlightening, may no obstacle arise between us. Samni va akuti, samna hirdayani va, sam namastu vo mano, yatha va susahasti. United your resolve, united your hearts, may your spirits be at one, that you may long together dwell in unity and concord. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
Thank you.
Army during the Korean War, although I never was all my time within miles of White House. Anyway, appreciate it. You all rise. Have any heads here on, please remove it. Follow along with me if you would. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you, Rajan. Our meeting will now follow with the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is a means of expediting routine matters which come before the Commission for approval. The consent portion of the agenda is approved by one non-debatable motion. If any commissioner wishes to remove an item from the consent portion of the agenda, that item becomes the first order of business on the regular agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read those items in at this time. Consent agenda item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for May 1st, 2019 through May 21st, 2019.
B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of May 7th, 2019, and special commission meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2019. C, consideration of administrative adjustments in real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments in personal property. E, consideration of applications for property tax abatement. We had one. Consideration for item F is the application for settlement or deferral of property taxes. 4. Item G, consideration of donation of surplus vehicle from the Sheriff's Office to Hurricane Valley Fire Special Service District. H, consideration of disposal of surplus property from the Washington County Legacy Park. And I, consideration of final plat for Bowler subdivision.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion has been made and seconded to accept today's consent agenda. All in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Before we get on to that regular agenda, I look back there and I see at least one Boy Scout, and maybe, are there two back there? Just one. Young man, would you stand and tell us where you're from and which troop you're representing, and if you're working on a merit badge? Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. We'll have to do a good job communicating today.
All right. We're really honored to have as the first item on today's agenda a presentation from IHC, and of course Mitch Cloward is going to lead that delegation up, but he will be joined with Don Cannon, Jordan Merrill, and I think I saw another name there, but yeah, Terry's there. And was it Chavez? Chavez. Okay, Chavez. So anyway, if I've missed anybody, excuse that, but Mitch, if you'd like to bring your party up, however you're going to do that. We are really excited with what's happening with IHC and the campus that's being created. This report will be interesting.
Well, thank you. And my name is Brian Chavez. I'm chairman of the board for Dixie Regional Medical Center. Mitch has asked me if I would kind of lead off here and explain some items. And again, just so everybody knows, again, Mitch Cloward, our administrator, Jordan Merrill, his title is Community Health Improvement Specialist, Terry Draper, Communications Director, and Don Cannon, our Finance Director. So we're loaded for bear. We can answer any question you have. We actually have a responsibility to report to this commission, and commissioners, thank you for having us. This is a responsibility, but we really look at it as an opportunity to talk about something that's near and dear to us all, and that's Dixie Regional Medical Center and what's happening here. I know that you've been provided with some financial information relative to the things such as charity care and our charitable activities. And as a not-for-profit hospital, we have some responsibilities, and we'd like to cover some of those and tell you some other things that are going on with the hospital. First of all, if I can just quickly address a not-for-profit hospital. To me, for a hospital, it just makes so much sense to be a not-for-profit. At the end of the year, if you have some increases from your operations, it would be difficult for me to be at a for-profit hospital and try to decide how much do we give our investors and how much do we return back into the hospital for better services for the patients. With a not-for-profit entity, all of those things go back into the hospital to provide better services to the patients at Dixie Regional. That's why we're able to do some of the things there that you've seen, the addition to the hospital and some of the services that we have here in this area for this size of community is pretty incredible. Relative to our size and where we're located. Our mission statement is helping people live the healthiest lives possible, and we take that very seriously. There's a complete separate building. It's called our Live Well Center, where people can go to be diagnosed, what do they need to do to improve their health, and tactfully trying to put some of the responsibility back on the public relative to taking care of yourself. And I think we are responsible for our own health to a large degree. Here we kind of have what our mission, vision, and values are, but I think I'd focus on the very bottom part there where it says engaged caregivers. As being a member of the board of directors, along with the other board members that we have, we are, one of our main responsibilities to be a liaison with our community. And I'm amazed how often I have people come up to me and tell me what great service that they have had at the hospital, especially the nurses. They always have such great things to say about our nurses, who really do a good job. We've talked a little bit about the not-for-profit, trying to provide the lowest appropriate cost, which we can do being organized the way that we are. We really have an impressive campus now. If you look down, that's a great shot of the now complete addition. You can see the cancer center in the back. It's a huge campus. It's about 1 million square feet now, right, Mitch? And so it's amazing. And here's some of the facts relative to our hospital. And though it's very secondary to what we provide for the community, the very bottom one there is something that shouldn't be overlooked, and that's the economic impact that this hospital has on this area. We are the largest employer, and especially when you add into that the average salary for our employees, it's a very stabilizing economic force in this county, in this area. Here's some of the awards that we've received. I would just like to perhaps focus on a couple of those. If you look at the second from the bottom, Precision Genomics. That's our cancer center with Doctors Nadald and Haslam, thank you. They're doing some incredible things there. Yes, they're fighting cancer, but they're also doing things, for example, with the genomics work they can do, they can assess a person's genome and can tell you what drug they will respond to better. For example, if somebody has a bipolar problem, instead of guessing what drugs may or may not work, through that genome sequencing, they can say, this is the drug for you, this is going to be most effective, instead of experimenting with drugs over a long period of time. And they received the Governor's Award for 2019 relative to the great things that are going on there. Then just one above that, our newborn intensive care unit has done great things. They're being recognized locally and nationally, and just recently were recognized in Modern Healthcare. That is a great recognition that they've received. Dr. Rideout and his staff there have done some incredible things. So, what does it mean to have a not-for-profit community hospital? As we've indicated, we operate without obligations to shareholders, and bottom line there, we offer more affordable health care. There are some things that that you're required to do to be able to maintain a not-for-profit status as a healthcare organization. See there on the right, second bullet point down, County Board of Equalization meetings, we have to report. We have to do the things that to maintain this status and to have the opportunities that we have. And again, just some items there: promoting health care, going and provide health-related assistance, dedicate its property to charitable purposes, provide hospital care. And the volunteer, I think there's the last count, there's 329 volunteers that work at the hospital. And that includes the board of directors. All of the board of directors serve without pay, and it's a voluntary position. And that's what makes part of this whole operation work. As we've indicated before, nothing goes to any shareholders. We don't have any shareholders. And so it's all maintained right here in Dixie Regional Medical Center. These are some of the things that must be established and maintained. and we are here to report that we are doing all of these things. Third bullet point down is worth focusing on just a bit, and that is that indigent persons who, in the judgment of a physician, require services generally available at the hospital receive those services for no charge or reduced charge in accordance with an indigent person's ability to pay. We recently made a presentation to the City of St. George, and they went out of their way to say, talk about their police force and the fact that if they didn't have some place to take the people that had behavioral issues, they would be in a real bad situation. But this is one of the services that are offered at the hospital that we don't make money. But we offer it because that's the right thing to do, and it's a needed service in this community. And here is a statement again that just reemphasizes that our mission is to provide quality care to persons with a medical need, regardless of the ability to pay. And then the information that you've been provided with summarizes the things such as the charity care that's being offered, the Medicaid and Medicare services that we provide that in many cases do not totally reimburse the full cost of items, and then just helping people that do not have the ability to pay. Some more information there. Again, we've mentioned that the governing board has broad-based members representing the community it serves. Here's a picture of those board of directors. I think you'll probably recognize some of your neighbors, friends, and associates. These are a great group of individuals with diverse backgrounds. They bring a lot to the table relative to their experience, their wisdom, their life experiences, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to work with these individuals. We have some great board meetings. They're all engaged. We have several committees. All of these directors serve on one of the committees at the hospital. Great group. These are some of the things that we've done. We've performed a community health needs assessment that focus on those 4 items there. And a lot of work has been done on the number 4, prescription opioid misuse. It's a huge problem, something that has received a lot of attention and focus. Here's some incredible numbers. Total gift to the community. This is not Intermountain Healthcare system-wide. This is Dixie Regional Medical Center. Total gift to the community, $331 million, or $63,445. Community benefit of $307, charity care $23 million, and it shows the number of cases for which there were charity care, some type of subsidy provided for by the hospital. We do receive benefits for being a not-for-profit as far as property tax waivers. Not all of our properties receive that, but some of them do. But the amount of the waivers is nothing near the amount that's given back to the community. So I think everybody is benefiting from this arrangement, and county's getting their money's worth. The satellite healthcare facilities improve the hospital's governing hospital's mission, because we try to reach all areas of the community, including the rural areas. So that's kind of a quick overview. Mitch, anything else you'd like to add to that?
I would just say it's an honor and a privilege for us to serve the healthcare needs of this community. We're grateful for your support, Commissioners, very much.
Thank you.
Do you have questions that we might address while we're here? Bill?
Just a comment that I'd make. County has been facing a severe opioid problem, and I really appreciate the support from IHC in helping us find ways to address and innovatively look at how we can help our community overcome some of those issues of addiction that have been plaguing it. And I know that the hospital has really been leading out in looking at at how those are prescribed and how long and whether it's necessary, and you're looking at the total count of all of that from what I understand, and so I think that's beneficial. They have a place, and it's a confined box, and I know you're working
Yeah,
hard to
we
help us with
prescribed
that.
30% less opioids last year than the previous year. So we're trying to do our part. That's a significant reduction in opioids being prescribed.
Thank you.
I think it was a couple years ago, we celebrated the 40th year anniversary of the county hospital transitioning to Intermountain. And I'm just really glad that we no longer have a county hospital.
Otherwise, you'd be the administrator, Vic, so that's good.
Yeah, the satisfaction rate wouldn't be quite as high as it is with you guys. And the second thing is the genomics. We had the Karen Symposium not very long ago, and the hospital was really great to support that. But there was a comment made by one of the presenters that he was absolutely astounded that this facility, that this was located here in St. George, that it was the type of facility that you would find in only the largest types of American cities, and yet it was right here in St. George. And so that just shows a commitment that you're all leading the edge. And so thank you. It's great to have you as part of our community. And luckily, I haven't had to stay overnight or anything in your hospital. So, but it does make me sleep better to know that it's there. So,
You probably will sometime.
yeah,
Let us
maybe.
know when you're there, we'll visit.
So Brian and Mitch, thank you and your team for coming today. Even though my phone is silenced, it makes that noise. I think it's the Russians. But if you can perform surgery on it, I would appreciate it. Anyway, can you tell us a little more about how you reach out to the entire county? I think that's important that everyone know that you've had that as a goal and you're reaching it ever more and more and more to help provide services or help people to get to you, whatever it takes.
Yeah, so we look at a hub and spoke model where the hospital's the hub, and we have satellite clinics throughout the county to help people receive health care closer to home. There's the Sunset Clinic. We're building a Little Valley Clinic that we should be opening sometime next year. We just purchased land down on the south end of the county by Sun River. We have land at the Washington exit for a future clinic site. So one of the key ways we do that is to have people receive health care close to home, primary care services, and then come to the hospital as the hub for those specialized services that they need. So that is an endeavor where people can come regardless of their ability to pay and receive health care close to home. So you'll see more clinics, and we've just purchased some more land to do that. And Hurricane
has
as well. Hurricane as well.
And then speak to us also about the ability for somebody to get online and
Yeah,
receive-
Connect Care.
Yeah.
So through a mobile app for, I think, what is it now, $40, $50? $49. If you're at home, I think about a mother who's up at night worried about their child, but they don't want to go to the emergency department to incur that expense. You can just connect on this app for $49 and be in touch with a FaceTime providers through all that technology too.
If you have select.
Insurance, if you have Select Health, it's $10, so even cheaper. So that's another way to make healthcare more affordable and more accessible close to home. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff, item number 2, the Emergency Services Report. Sheriff Pulsifer.
Well, as you guys are slipping out, I want to tell you thank you because of the partnership we have. There's so many of the individuals that we deal with the drugs and mental health and stuff, that without some of the services you provide, they all end up in my facility. Some of them still do, but it's a great partnership. Well, the search and rescue calls are continuing, as well as the bad weather that's trapping people out in the recreational areas as they try and get out and enjoy our things. So in the last month, we've got an additional 12 total call outs, which brings our total year to date to 48 already. And we're not even into the busy season yet. So total of 631.5 man hours that was donated during the last month on actual call outs. Just to highlight a couple of them, we've got several that have involved individuals that are trying to recreate and tube in the Virgin River. drainage that underestimate the swiftness of the water, the power of the water, and their inability to maneuver like what they're used to with the flows being as high as they are. One of the things that we've been doing with search and rescue and with the sheriff's office is we've partnered with a lot of the other agencies, fire departments across the entire Virgin River drainage as well as Santa Clara drainage, and provided training and have expanded our swift water swift water team with the training of the members, so that when we get these types of calls, those agencies that are closest are the ones that do the first initial response as we are getting the rest of the team put together to come by and help out. And it's actually benefited us twice just in the last month, that they were able to get there and actually resolve it before the rest of the team was able to respond. But we've had some people that have gone out to go recreating that are trying to follow GPS or different things and end up in some way out of the way areas. One guy was following his GPS, somehow ended up way up in Smith's Mesa area, said he was trying to get to Zion National Park to go to Angel's Landing. Don't always trust your electronic devices, please. We had a 33-year-old female that had walked away from her camp heading towards Hurricane. We ended up searching most of the night, called off the search the first night due to the weather, and the next day resumed the search. The individual was finally located a little ways away from her camp, deceased. And some of it was weather related, but others was dealing with mental illness. Again, with that case, they provided water safety for the Ironman event at Sand Hollow. They actually pulled 13 subjects from the water for hypothermia and muscle cramping, but with the medical people that was on scene, they was able to be treated, and none of them were transported. So it was a really good year with that. And then we also just recently did the Tocopelli Sand Hollow Triathlon, and only 2 out of the 480 participants ended up being removed from the water. So the one case that was most interesting is a 47-year-old female went hiking on Canaan Mountain out just past Hilldale area. Was not prepared for the storm that hit, became extremely soaked, hypothermic. Search and rescue deployed hikers as well as ATVs from Kane County side as well as from the Washington County side. Life flight was actually available. Was able to fly up there. They located her. They just could not find a place to land because the weather conditions and such were that they couldn't get down, and so they had to actually abort the flight mission and go back to the landing pad. They worked throughout the night. Finally got to her around 0300 in the morning. She was in quite serious critical condition, and the medical people, Tommy, were on that. The information I received is that if we had not been able to locate her and get her some of the warm clothing and other assistance, that she would not have made it through the night as well. So my message is, please let people know where you're going, have a plan, and please be prepared, because watch Dean's cabin cameras and weather changes like every 5 minutes. So, any questions?
No, thank you, and please pass our appreciation and thanks to your search and rescue volunteers and also the deputies and staff that assist them in doing their job.
Yeah, couldn't do it without them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate you so much.
All right, item number 3, consideration of purchase requests. Ray Boyer.
There's only 3 of them today. The first one is for the Convention and Tourism Office. It's for the Give Your Lands a Hand marketing campaign, and a total of $21,700. Second one is for our ITS department, and this is a renewal for licenses and support. And what it is it's it protects us against ransomware, viruses, and malware. And that's a total of $29,600.57. The last one is to tear down and install new siding on the tower at the fairgrounds, and also install new soffit and fascia on the concessions building. And that's a total of $11,090. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Questions, commissioners?
No, looks good. Thank you, Ray.
I'd entertain then a motion to approve the three requests as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase request that Ray has presented to us.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Iverson, and the second by Commissioner Almquist. All in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 4. This is for Mr. Kim Hafen, and he will report on the protest count and consideration of a resolution approving the Harmony Heights paving special assessment area.
Before I talk about the letters that I received, the hospital people have left, but a year ago in February, I had triple bypass surgery at the hospital. Commissioner, you're lucky you haven't been there. But I felt like I was the only person in the hospital. From the doctors to the nurses to the people who prepared food to the people who cleaned the room. So anyway, thanks to all you hospital people that aren't here. I've received letters both in opposition and in favor of the paving project in Harmony Heights. We didn't obviously request or need the ones that were in favor, but just to let you know, there were 41 full assessment lots and 8 half assessment lots, which would be the equivalent of 45 lots to be. So we needed, to oppose that, they needed 18 opposition letters. We received 16 in favor, and we have received 19 in opposition, which would be 42.22% of the equivalent lot. We had 18 full lots and 2 halves that opposed. I don't know. I can let me give you a copy of what I did with this. Had a couple of came in that they were signed off by someone, but they didn't quite match up with ownership records, so we've contacted those people and got like powers of attorney sheets and things, so we actually verified that they represented the vote that they were casting. So anyway.
Okay. Thank you for your effort and work on this. I think you do a great job, Mr. Hafen.
I know Kim will do.
Claire Cotton.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Is there any action necessary?
There is some action that should be necessary, and I think
The commissioners, the way that the statute reads, after the protest period, you guys need to make a final determination as to whether to move forward or not with this. Obviously, with the protest exceeding the threshold, I assume that you'll make a motion to not move forward with the project.
however, that mark in the sand is a statutory line established by the legislature that if it exceeds that, but the commission would be free to look at it, and even if a smaller number objected and we weren't comfortable with a smaller threshold, we could deny it for that reason as well.
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you, Eric.
A question, Eric, and if you make a motion that we support the level of opposition and don't proceed, when could those who are in favor come back? How many months or years, et cetera?
That defined.
And I'm not aware of anything in that. I could double check that. I'm not aware of anything. I believe that that's just a political calculation that you guys would make, because it's the commissioners that vote to put it forward and open up that protest period. So.
And then second question, could they choose to have a different set of roads in there or a different group as long as it was contiguous with another paved highway? Does that make sense?
Yeah, to come in with a different map, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, that would also be a possibility.
Well, I move that we, based on the level of opposition, that we do not proceed with the paving project.
I'll second that motion.
Commissioners, all in support of the motion, which is to not proceed based on stated opposition. Those in support of not moving forward, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks for the work on that, both Kim and Eric and
And
residents.
obviously, we recognize this is a divisive issue, and with 16 letters in support, 18 for the full lots and 2 half lots against, it looks like it's not resolved. But
Try to work it out.
thank you for all of your work and effort. Work with each other, and I'm sure you'll continue to work as neighbors to have a great place up there to live and raise your families.
Can I make a comment?
I will allow you a brief comment, yes. If you'll come up and state your name.
My name is Don Andrisco. I'm in Harmony Heights 1, Lot 1. I was here before, when this went before the board the last time. I think it was years ago when we tried to pave this road. And I'm for the paving. How do we know that all the letters were on legit that came in opposing the paving? Is there any way that that can be checked?
I'm going to defer to Kim or the attorney, but feel fine about giving you the sheet of paper that he handed
Well,
me, but I'm comfortable. I'm very comfortable.
You're comfortable?
With
I
the,
just was wondering why there couldn't be a registered letter sent out to every homeowner that would be signed, maybe a certified letter that
we
they
have
were
to
actually the
follow the
ones.
state statute.
Oh, you can't do that?
I'm not sure that we can.
And I'm not sure either off the cuff. I think that though that you'd like to verify, obviously all the letters that have come in are public documents.
Okay.
You could request copies of all of those, and see that. Go in and visit with our clerk auditor about.
A grammar request would get you copies of those.
Well, I heard a letter was sent out with a lot of negatives about why we shouldn't pave it, and it was sent out to people that actually aren't living there, that just own lots, with actually a form letter which they can check and send in and say they don't want the letter or want the
I'm
paving.
confident that Mr. Hafen actually looked at lot ownership and names, and I think you had some come in objecting that we're not owners of lots, but he went through the process of qualifying everything, and I am very comfortable with Mr. Hafen's work.
Just out of curiosity, what would be your estimation of lots that are built out and lots that are just
I would
vacant?
say a little bit more than 50%, maybe
Okay.
maybe 60%.
60%.
There's a lot of vacant lots, and there's a lot of people that are out of the state that have no idea what's going on, and I think they were sent letters, with negatives about the paving. Maybe they didn't know.
Then I heard in our previous meeting, it seemed that some of the opposition was based on, lifestyle, horses and whatnot, and then others. I'm just curious how much of it was based on the cost, just the impact of the pocketbook, individual owners.
Probably
versus-
a lot. I think the cost was fair. I had no objection to that. But obviously, some people can't afford to understand that. And I really appreciated what they were spacing it over 10 years. That was phenomenal. But unfortunately, maybe 10 years from now, we'll go through this again.
Well, and Don,
I hope.
I've been a participant for 20 years in trying to get some improvements in an unincorporated area where we have a cabin, and every time that we continue to move forward, we eliminate the people that are opposed, and in our case, it's easy because it was a whole side of another road. They just didn't want it. And so we'll eventually get there. That's why I asked the questions of legal is, how can you still proceed? And when I look at your lot number, and it looks like you've got your neighbors on both sides that wanted it, and you can kind of piece together the map just by the lot numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were a bunch that were elsewhere that said they didn't. Maybe they don't even have a home there yet, which you're saying is about half and half. So having said that, check with legal what's proper for timing and maybe look at it in a different way.
Well, unfortunately, we were grouped with people that were outside the cul-de-sac that actually get a boat. They get a half a boat, but they don't want it because they don't use the road like we do.
Yeah.
You know, we have to go out and drive in the potholes and the dust and all that every day, and frankly, I'm sick of it. I don't want to move. I love it there, but
Yeah.
I'd like to have a paved road.
Thank you.
Keep trying. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consideration of ordinance number 2019-1137-0, an ordinance rezoning a portion of Vail from the C3 General Commercial Zone to the RA1 Residential Agricultural 1 acre minimum lot size zone. And Scott from Community Development, can you lead us through that?
Yes, I can. The Hansons, who own a parcel that is approximately 1.5 acres in size, it's located just west of the main intersection there in Vail. The property is zoned commercial. There's currently some existing homes on the neighboring parcels, both to the east and to the west of it, that are also zoned commercial. Those homes would have been grandfathered in to when the zone was put in place, the commercial zone.
It's just a non-conforming use then?
Correct, yep. What we have is they're requesting to be able to rezone the property to from C3 to the RA1 Residential Agricultural 1 acre. And it was reviewed by the Planning Commission in their May meeting. And after holding the public hearing, there were 2 people that spoke in favor of allowing the applicants to be able to do that. But upon discussion and deliberation with the members of the Planning Commission did not feel comfortable recommending approval of that zone change to the County Commission. And some of the items that were discussed were the concerns that a residential dwelling is not a permitted use in a general commercial. There is little property zoned for commercial in the unincorporated county. This parcel is located in the middle of other commercial properties. By rezoning this parcel to residential would add a buffering restriction on the neighboring parcels. And the general plan map for Vail showed this parcel and the neighboring parcels that are now zoned commercial as proposed commercial. And then it's located on one of Vail's main roads, and they were then also concerned about if this piece came in and then the property owners went through the expense of putting in a home, and then if a neighboring parcel that was zoned commercial, if they actually went to develop it, there'd be opposition then to developing that piece. And so those are just some of the things that were discussed in the meeting. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
What was the Planning Commission vote?
The Planning Commission voted, we had one that abstained from voting, and the rest voted to recommend denial.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
So we can't have residential and commercial.
No.
Have almost anything else.
Well, you can technically, couldn't you? No.
So-
No. In commercial, you can't build a home. But we could zone this residential in commercial.
Yeah.
That's what I understood you.
What if they wanted to have a cookie store in the front room?
I know, we've had some discussions about possible changes to the code and how more of a mixed use, you build a storefront at the front and live in the back.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that, commissioners, with a change in the code, you could even allow single-family residence in your C3 zone. We just currently don't right now allow.
Are you the applicant? You represent the applicant. And you'd like to make a statement to us? You may. State your name for the record.
I just thought before we get an answer, can I at least give some information as well? My name's Rachel Henderson, and I'm representing Tyson and Cassandra Hansen. So when they were looking to purchase this lot, which was advertised as C3 zoning, horse property and residential, they did call before they even made an offer on the property. They called and spoke to Washington County to find out what the setbacks would be for their home, because they wanted to buy the property to build a home and have their horses in the back. And so they called and talked to someone. They didn't write down who they spoke to, but they were told the setbacks. In fact, she wrote it in her notes. Put down 25 feet from the road, 40 feet deep, 150 feet before horses, whatever's left times the width divided by 12.5. And that was on March 18th. And she wrote this in her notes on her phone, and then she texted that to her dad to help her decide how many horses that would be, for their horse property. So then, feeling good about that, they went ahead and made an offer on this property the next day and went under contract the following day. So it was March 20th. And then they closed on the property. And then about a month later, they had their plans for home all completed. And the home designer had to call to confirm the setbacks. So when he called Washington County, they said that a home could not be built on the property. And so at that point, we quickly came to the county and asked what we would need to do to, because here they purchased the property to build a home and have horses, and now they're saying that we could not do that. And so, so at that time, we spoke to Washington County, and they said to apply for the RA1. That would be the only way to have the residential horse property. Now, they're fine with the C3 as long as they can build their home and have their horses in the back. She even volunteered, maybe they could do horse training. Looking through the C3 zoning, it's something like make cookies and sell them out front. It's have a garden and sell your produce out front. Be a bookkeeper. So it's not like Walmart zoning is how the C3, it could be like cabinet shop out back, anything like that. So anyway, also the seller of the property said when he purchased it back in 2005, it was zoned as C3, and he has seen horses and cattle and all sorts of things on all the different properties in the C3 zoning ever since. We were told that the zoning had changed because we saw that there's the whole street's lined with houses, and so we noticed that there was 2 homes that were built in 2006, and so we were wondering when the zoning changed to just commercial and not single family. We were told it changed in 2010, but looking back, there are several listings dated back to 2001 that are showing commercial, horse property, residential on all of those. So we are requesting whether it's C3 zoning or to switch it to RA1, that they can build their house and have their horses. That's what they were told before they even made an offer on the lot.
Thank you. It's one of those cases where sometimes coming in with a map might beat a phone call. Anyway, commissioners, questions, discussion?
This one's a tough one.
Yes.
Because, Scott, if I understand what you're saying is if we allow the zone change, there could possibly be impacts on the neighbors if they were to go and exercise commercial, as far as their setbacks. In commercial, you can build right up to the property lines. There's usually
in the commercial zone, what our code says is in the commercial zone, when the commercial zone abuts up next to a residential zone property, that there needs to be a 10-foot buffer, which could be a combination of landscaping and a wall or fencing, but it's a 10-foot buffer.
Is that the only?
Oh, I'm just going to say it could incur expense then for the other two property
Correct.
owners if they wanted to do that, if we make this decision.
Correct.
But outside of the commercial that's on, and when I first heard about this case, I was expecting it to be on State Street, on the highway, but it's not. It's
On
off.
the Gunlock Road.
It's on the Gunlock Road, which it doesn't look very commercially through
Well,
the neighborhood.
That's the same block that Bell Famous Pies.
Yeah, I
is
was
on,
noticing
right
that.
there, yeah.
Maybe if we could put even more Famous Pies in the front.
Cow pies.
But,
Cow pies, that kind of crosses
Cow
both.
pies, yeah. You know, I hate to go against our planning commission. We had a work meeting with them today. That's one of my main reservations in not supporting this, but at the same time, looks like it should be residential. Now, how soon are they planning on building? We're in the middle of, we had a work meeting today on commercial zones, and I'm not saying that it would be resolved at all by that, but we're having discussions, but it sounds like they're quite far along. They've purchased the property, they're in design phase. Well, I'm inclined to support, I don't know if I have a second or any support. I'm inclined to support the zone change. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and just make a motion that we support the zone change.
Okay. Commissioner Iverson has made a motion to support changing the property from C3 to an RA1. Is there a second?
Well, it's not proper to make a second until I ask a question.
Absolutely. You can make a second or not a second whenever you want.
Well, Robert's Rules demands a second first, then questions, but I'm going to back that up by saying that nobody knows what that is, hardly. So
Let's go by
Eric,
Gil's rules. They're just kidding.
Gil's Rules of Disorder. Eric, a question. What if we made it incumbent upon them that they provide the buffer?
We could go back and, on a table this, we could go back and legally look into the options of doing that. Off the cuff, you know, the way our zoning ordinance reads is the commercial property that abuts residential bears that burden. And it's in the conditional use permit where you can impose conditions as a zone change. But I'd be happy to, if you guys wanted to put this off, I'd be happy to look into options like
These
that.
would look to be very narrow, I mean, reasonably narrow. I know they're very deep. But I worry that we could have a taking on the adjacent lots if we spot zone that.
Rachel, what's the width of the lot?
Wide.
Oh, that's still pretty wide.
No, my residential lot's 100 feet.
So 125 if we found some way that they were to provide the 10 feet of landscaping on their property, they are left with 105 feet
That's enough.
to build a house and a barn next to it and a garage. I'm also thinking that maybe that would only be imposed upon them as the neighboring properties developed.
Yeah, it wouldn't be imposed on the commercial law. I mean, correct me on this, Scott, but I don't know how we would impose it on the commercial lot until the commercial property.
That's correct, until it's developed as commercial.
But how do we, I still don't know how we sidestep our code that imposes that on the commercial developer.
By making it incumbent upon the residential owner.
Can we do that as part
I
of?
think
the
that's what Eric was
motion?
saying, is to look into that.
Forward that onto.
It only seems logical that the person that
And
imposed.
like, I'd be happy to, I wouldn't be comfortable giving an opinion on that off the fly.
Here.
But I'd be happy to come back with any legal option that we can come up with that would allow for that kind of a thing.
Well, they're subject to either not getting it passed or tabling it and allowing legal a way to find a remedy. And so to get to that point, I don't second the motion if that's the way we would like to visit it again later.
We'd only be delaying it a couple weeks. We could probably look into this.
I would entertain a motion. Respectfully, I'm not going to call on you again. This isn't a public hearing. If we table, you'll have plenty of opportunity to visit. I'm just looking for a motion. I didn't hear a second on yours.
So the motion's failed
I moved
for
to
lack of a
table.
second.
I move to table this till the meeting in which legal has given a chance to research this. It could be the next meeting or the meeting after that, or whenever you're ready.
Very good. All right, well, I'll second that, and just with the comment that the purpose of tabling it would be to figure out to find a remedy between a zone change that would not impact the neighbors remaining in commercial. So I second that motion.
Commissioners, a motion has been made and seconded to table Resolution R 2019, ordinance number 2019-1137-0 until legal has a chance to review it and come back with some answers for us. All in support of tabling the motion, say aye.
Say aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2468, a resolution approving a transportation services agreement between SkyWest Airlines, St. George City, and Washington County regarding startup costs for a nonstop flight between St. George and Dallas, Fort Worth.
Move to approve.
These are the rules of disorder now.
All right, we've had a motion to approve, but I would like to take a second and speak to the resolution. SkyWest approached the city of St. George, and the city of St. George has actually preempted us on this a bit, and they've already had it before their city council, and they've approved this idea of helping to support the startup costs for a nonstop flight between St. George and Dallas Fort Worth that would start up in September when the airport reopens. And the mayor then subsequently came down and brought a copy of this paperwork and petitioned the county to see if we would also participate. We asked to what extent St. George would like to see participation, and he indicated that he'd like to see a 50-50 split with that. And the amount is $450,000, so the 50-50 split would be $225,000. I did look at some route maps, and we currently have flights to Salt Lake, Denver, Los Angeles, and Phoenix. And if you look at the spider chart that flows from each of those central hubs and then look at what Dallas-Fort Worth brings to it, Dallas-Fort Worth is huge.
It is.
And it really connects St. George via one stop to virtually every destination in the nation and to points in South America and Europe, and from Los Angeles, of course, you've got Asia, and it's pretty remarkable. So, any questions, comments, anybody to speak to it? Is there anyone from SkyWest here, or? Okay.
Well, I can tell you, being involved on the St. George City Council when the airport was built to begin with, there were so many naysayers. It seemed like the entire airline industry would cave in because they were so negative about all this. And now we have flights going everywhere and convenient for our residents and for people to come and visit as well and spend their tourism dollars here. So, you know, there's 900 additional flights out of Dallas, 200 which go to cities that the other hubs we use don't go to. So it's like you said, Chairman, the opportunities are endless, plus many nonstop long flights out of Dallas. So having said that,
I believe the motion's already been made.
I did make that motion earlier.
Well, I'd like to echo that, and the other comment I'd make is that, you know, we did a similar thing when we talked about the Phoenix flight, and how quickly that took off, and how all of these flights are full. I mean, people more and more are flying out of St. George rather than
Flying
going to
into
Vegas, and
St.
flying
George
into
as
St.
well.
George. So, I mean, this is just going to be another great addition, and just put us one stop away from almost anywhere in the western part of the world.
Yeah.
So, Europe and so on and so forth. So, I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Iverson. A motion has been made. It has been seconded in support of Resolution R 2019-2468, a resolution approving a transportation services agreement between SkyWest Airlines, St. George City, Washington County regarding startup costs for a nonstop flight between St. George and Dallas, Fort Worth. All in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I hear no opposition. That's why I don't call for opposing votes. If I hear them all aye, it's an exercise in redundancy. The motion carries. Item 7, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2469, a resolution approving an agreement between Washington County and Bowen, Collins and Associates, Inc. for the planning and design for rehabilitation of the Frog Hollow debris basin. Todd, would you come up and tell us about that?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Todd Edwards, County Engineer. This is an agreement with Bowen Collins to do work on the Frog Hollow debris basin. It's up above Hurricane City. Hurricane is basically the co-applicant on this one. We're going through Washington County like we do on nearly every NRCS project. This is being fully funded by the NRCS, the engineering work and the construction management, which this takes care of. So it's really no cost to the county. Been very grateful to the NRCS for all of their work they've helped us with. This will be a great benefit to the Hurricane especially, as it drains directly into their city, and it's not up to a high hazard dam standard. Would help it get to that point. So we're recommending that you approve this agreement.
Is Frog Hollow the drainage that follows the road Hilldale down off the hill, or spills down?
Yeah,
over
it's
the
up
way there?
above. There's the Gold's Wash, which is on
And
a
I'm
separate
familiar
drainage,
with
but
that.
there's
Down
also
lower is Frog Hollow the next one up.
Yep, next one up. It goes to the south. All that area up on that upper mesa.
Well, thank you. These have worked out very well, Commissioners, and the NRCS has been a great partner with our communities, and the county has been a partner with the communities and the NRCS in bringing these projects to fruition. So I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2019-2469, a resolution approving an agreement between Washington County and Bowen Collins Associates for planning and design for the rehabilitation of Frog Hollow debris basin.
Second, with a question, Todd, does it also include their Bowen Collins any management over construction, or is it just design and planning?
It includes a 6-month construction time, their inspection that entire time. In fact, it's probably 40% of this contract is
So there's
construction management.
3 sections. There's planning and then design and then supervision to a certain extent. Yeah.
Okay. There's already been an environmental assessment where a lot of the planning went into it. This is for the construction drawings, bidding process, geotechnical.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All in support of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 8, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2470, a resolution approving tourism funds to Santa Clara for the BMX track. And Brittany, are you familiar with that at all? I am. Or I see Councilman Jared Waite here. We'll let him come up and explain that. I had to wait a second to get that name to pop in. I had to wait a second, yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Yeah, so this is just to approve the MOU. Mayor Rosenberg signed it last week, and everything was agreeable that's in there. And we're just looking forward to the approval.
Very good.
Are there any
Questions for
questions?
No, I think he was here before, made a
That's
great
kind of
presentation.
exciting. Yep.
And I believe it went back to the TAB board at that time and received approval from there, so. I think if Commissioner Almquist is agreeable, he'll make a motion and I will second it.
I just think that I'm in favor of making a motion to award the funds from the TAB board as long as Chairman Cox takes the first run.
Now, I will second that motion.
I'm sure we could arrange that.
You know what? I would be game for that as long as there's nobody else. It's non-competitive, no cameras.
Like a first pitch, basically,
And
right?
no witnesses, yeah.
So I move to approve.
That sounds like fun. Okay, the motion has been made and supported in support of the resolution with the caveat that Commissioner Cox, do I have to pay the $10?
No, you won't have to worry about
So
that.
as long as I get to make the first run on it, that sounds great. All in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Jared. Item number 9, consideration of resolution R 2019-2471, a resolution approving the execution of interlocal agreements between Washington County and towns, cities, and special service districts regarding county assistance in the 2019 municipal elections. Kim?
Just, Commissioners, you get that $10 off at the BMX park. Will you make sure you report that as compensatable money?
If I do that, I will.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to give you a lot of detail on these interlocal agreements. Typically, the odd numbered years are a bit lighter for us with elections because they're municipals and special service districts, but we help typically with many of those entities with their elections because we have the equipment. Some entities are doing things on their own like they always have, and some are contracting with us to help with that. The ones that contract with us now, they contract to be by mail. That's the only kind of assistance we can render nowadays. So they can do things on their own. We can put them in contact with vendors that can do things other ways. But when they contract with us, it's to use our by mail equipment that we're doing. So I don't know if you want any more explanation than that.
And your personnel as well?
Yeah, some of our
part of
personnel. Yeah, they pay for their own, poll workers and people that will come and help count. But our staff, me, Susan, Melanie, Kathy, will assist with that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. And we're not signing on to ranked choice voting, are we?
We can put you in contact with vendors that can help you with ranked choice voting, but we can't actually do that.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. Very good.
A rank idea?
It's a rank idea.
Okay.
Well, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2019-2471, a resolution approving the execution of an interlocal agreement between Washington County, towns, cities, and special service districts regarding county assistance in 2019 elections.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded in support of the aforementioned resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 10, consideration of resolution R 2019-2472, a resolution in support of military and veteran caregivers in Washington County, Utah. Gil.
Yes, thank you. And we have with us Tracy Celine with us, and we appreciate you. And who's with you?
My husband, Garrett.
Garrett, wonderful. Glad to have you with us. Will you tell us your story a bit, and then I'll go ahead and read this resolution?
I recognize a few faces here from my time at Habitat for Humanity, so thank you so much for
Thank you.
allowing me this time. We used to live here in Washington City. My husband enlisted into the Air Force 6 years ago. We are excited to be back home, but during his time there, he became a wounded warrior, and I became his caregiver. A few things to know. First of all, thank you for your support of the hospital. The hospital is a community care hospital in conjunction with the VA. So because our VA that we are allotted is in Salt Lake, driving 6 hours to get help is just not feasible. So we have a wonderful hospital here that is utilized by a lot of our veterans, and it's a fantastic facility. The other thing I want to say too about the airport is Dallas-Fort Worth has quite a few military bases there, and it makes it a lot easier for them to come home and see family. So thank you for supporting that as well. I want to say that as a caregiver, again, our VA being 6 hours away, driving 6 hours away to get resources, driving 6 hours back gets to be a little bit difficult sometimes. We do have the Las Vegas that's 2 hours away, but sadly we fall under Salt Lake, which is where everything gets a little difficult. The resolution that we have in front of us right now is a part of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, and I am honored to actually start a caregiver group here in St. George. We start on June 1st, and we will be meeting in the St. George Library. When I spoke with the Vet Center along with our CBOC, our community-based clinic, it was kind of exciting to see how excited our mental health caregivers were, or our mental health providers were, as well as some of the doctors at the CBOC. And sadly, we haven't had a group in this area in quite some time. Part of this group's job is education, understanding what our veterans' rights are, understanding that even though we're rural, I really hate that word, that it's okay, and that our military members can be taken care of. And that as caregivers, sometimes we need a timeout, and that it's okay for us to take a timeout. So this resolution will actually be able to provide resources through the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We will be recognized as the second location here in the state of Utah. The only other location that's recognized is the city of Lehigh. We will be the third county in the country recognized under the Hidden Heroes Elizabeth Dole Foundation. So I want to thank you guys so much for doing this for us. Again, this will provide us with a lot of resources and educational materials that we wouldn't be able to receive through that foundation if not for this resource. We will be on their website as a Hidden Heroes County, and I'm very excited about this, and also a little sad that it's taken this long.
Tracy, thank you. With yours and Garrett's permission, may I read this resolution?
I start crying, just know that I'm a marshmallow. Yes,
Okay.
I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Therefore, Resolution R 2019-2472, a resolution in support of military and veteran caregivers in Washington County, Utah. Whereas the series of wars and conflicts in which our nation has been engaged over time since World War II has resulted in 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers who are parents, spouses, siblings, and friends caring for those wounded, ill, or injured who have served our nation, as documented by the 2014 RAND study commissioned by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And whereas the daily tasks of these military and veteran caregivers can include bathing, feeding, dressing, and caring for the grievous injuries of wounded warriors, administrating medications, providing emotional support, caring for the family and the home, and working outside the home to earn essential income. And whereas the nation provides multifaceted support to our wounded, ill, and injured veterans and service members through public, private, and philanthropic resources, but their caregivers receive little support or acknowledgement. And whereas most military and veteran caregivers consider the challenging work they do as simply carrying out their civic and patriotic duty without realizing they are, in fact, caregivers and do not identify themselves as such. And whereas an alarming number of military and veteran caregivers, according to research, are suffering numerous debilitating mental, physical, and emotional effects as a result of their caregiving duties, and whereas Washington County, Utah, desires to recognize and support those who are serving in these vital roles in our community, now therefore be it resolved by the County Commission of Washington County, Utah, that they recognize the important and often demanding role that military and veteran caregivers play in our community. Be it further resolved that the county encourages all who care for and support veterans and service members to extend that support to their caregivers. This will be voted upon and passed by the Washington County Commission at this regular meeting, and I move that we pass this resolution this evening.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion has been made and seconded in support of Resolution R 2019-2472. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
I tried to get it in there first.
Yeah.
Hard, that was tight.
Thank you,
so very
Celine.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Garrett.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
righty.
for your service.
Commissioners, do you think I could just get a quick picture with her? That would really help her to be able to
Very good.
bring this forward.
I'll get in. I'll have my husband take it if you don't mind. Yes. Oh, sorry. And come over here too. You've been emailing. I feel like we've bonded. We're making it legal.
Item number 11, consideration of Resolution R 2019-2473, a resolution approving an agreement between Washington County and the Southern Utah Practical Shooters to host the USPSA HICAP National Championship Shooting Event. Commissioner Iverson.
Well, very good, Mr. Chairman. As many people in our county know, we have a shooting range. It's called the Purgatory or Southern Utah Shooting Sports Park. It is just out past our fairgrounds. And one of the venues out there is Practical Shooting. They host a number of well-attended events throughout the year. But the resolution before us today is to approve an agreement to support the national championship of practical shooting here in September. And it's the agreement.
This is a pretty big event.
It is.
Bringing quite a few people in for the county, I believe.
Yep. I believe there'll be at least 1,000 altogether when you count the judges and participants. Of course, that doesn't include, the family members and others who come to support them. So it's a pretty big deal, and we've talked to them about safety and about kind of how the event will be run, and we're comfortable with them.
Eric, you've had a chance to review the agreement.
Yeah, our office has reviewed this and had some kind of back and forth with the Utah Practical Shooters. Just make sure that everybody's clear on what the agreement says, and after you guys' meeting this afternoon, Natalie, and kind of work through that, and we're good to go.
Perfect.
So Victor should take a shot at the motion.
Yes, I'll take a shot at the motion, which is, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2019-2473, a resolution approving an agreement between Washington County and Southern Utah Practical Shooters to host the USPSA HICAP National Championship Shooting Event.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded in support of Resolution R 2019-2473. All who will support that say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Commissioners, any other business, any reports?
Well, it seems kind of weird that I don't have anything to say. We've been in meetings for 2 or 3 days straight, but it's just kind of part of the job, right?
Well, I can make a report of last week's Children's Justice Center Symposium that was held in Snowbird, where they have held it annually for some time. I don't know how many years, being new myself, but it's one of those things that you go to and you don't know if you should cry or smile for cheer, because you hear so many sad stories of child abuse, and we just recently saw in the news even more and more and more. I think the heart of that, in which they bear out there as well, is pornography. And Hollywood is so hypocritical because they make movies that espouse all kinds of abuse against women and children and then decry anybody who's ever found guilty of it. So, and yet let an industry like that just run rampant throughout the nation and over-sexualize mostly men. And they take it out on young children who are innocent and don't know what is happening to them. and get groomed literally for the eventual abuse. And then, of course, the abuse against women is obvious and should stop immediately. But having said that, there are so many positive stories that come out of it, and the momentum of the CJC in and of itself has been witnessed by the fact that their first convention had 70 attendees, and this one had 806. So it's gaining momentum, and there are those who are in the, I don't want to say audience, but those attending the symposium that are really doing some pointed, not only research, but finding out how to not only help the victims become survivors, but also to get at the perpetrators. But I was blown away by how many people are there, their sincerity, what they're finding out, and would just hope that through our Sheriff's Department office and others that have likewise responsibility, that they just stay at the forefront of this wherever they can. And quite honestly, with all of the law enforcement that was there, I feel for those law enforcement officials, investigators, et cetera, that have to conduct interviews and then still go home and lead a normal life. It's just something you honor them for, because they're trying to fix the problem by jumping right into the problem, and they get bloodied themselves, so to speak. So anyway, that was where I was last week, and I just have had my eyes wide open about that problem, although I've always known it exists, but not to the extent or the gruesome details that often accompany that. And, you know, the justice system, we don't seem able to lock up everybody that we find. That's not the answer, but rehabilitation is part of the answer too, to get them to stop their addiction, yet at the same time to heal those that are affected. So anyway, that's where I was.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, that we've reached the end of our agenda, and that concludes our meeting. I declare it adjourned.
Thank you for coming, everyone.